Hi everyone, Rene Bastarache here with the American School of Hypnosis, and today I'd like to speak to you about how we're conditioned daily through ancestral and environmental programming. You know, there's no book out there on raising children and living your life the proper way, so we do the best we can in raising our children and our families. Here's how our program begins when we're little children. We begin to observe and experience outside stimuli from our parents and our guardians and others who were influential in our upbringing. We were raised or programmed by our parents and their parents before them and their parents before them. And that's why many of us have the same beliefs as our ancestors or our parents and grandparents. The same beliefs, the same likes, the same dislikes, morals, and even mannerisms. We teach a lot in our classes that 80% of your personal programming is complete by age 12. Think of that. By the time you're 12 years old, most of your personal programming is done. And here's a breakdown of that. From 0 to age 2, you learn through observation. I guess you could say through mimicking, kind of like monkey see, monkey do. And from age 2 to 6, you're what we call a clone of your parents or your guardians. So you're a mini clone or a mini-me of them. It's funny when I say that. You'll hear parents talking to counselors or to therapists, and they'll say, I don't know why my effing child has this kind of effing language. I don't know where they effing get that, And all you keep on saying is mini-me, mini-me. The parents swear like crazy, and they don't understand why their children have bad language. Children learn through observation. They learn through mimicking. They want to be like their parents. Another thing that's interesting, if you go to a playground and watch little kids, I'm talking 3, 4-year-old kids, it's funny how when one child is angry at the other, you'll see the child go like this and start pointing at them. Sometimes they don't even say anything, or there's garbled words that you can't understand, but they're pointing their finger at them in disapproval. Where did they pick this up? From their parents doing that to them. When they're naughty, a lot of times the parents go, I told you not to do that. So the child knows if they point their finger in disapproval that they're scolding the other child. Now, from age 6 to 12, in addition to mimicry, we learn through storytelling and through the use of your imagination. And the trying to reason with a child usually starts from age 12 and on. So if you try to reason with an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old, not going to happen. Okay, they learn through observation. So if you want a child to behave, you should have some behavior that shows behaving as well, and they'll pick it up from you. So as you're a young child, through observation, you begin to make choices of what you like and what you don't like. You absorb everything like a sponge. And through repetition, what you learn becomes habit. Very important to know, because these habits develop into your personality, and they eventually become your beliefs, what makes you you. So all this information that we're taking in, that we're learning, that we're mimicking, give you a frame of reference to relate to when you have to make any kind of future choices. Now, this is why most people's personal beliefs aren't even their own. They were probably chosen or handed down from their parents, grandparents, and so on. For example, going to church. A lot of people are members of a certain church because as a young child, their parents dragged them to church. Just think of it, as a 3-year-old, you probably didn't want to go sit in church for an hour, but your parents grabbed you by the arm, dragged you there, told you to sit down, be quiet, and learn. By the time you were 8 years old, you knew the routine. By the time you were 12 years old, you probably had friends that went there too. You sat with them, so it became a habit. Growing up, through your teachings, as you go to church, getting older, the different religious classes, you start to learn a little bit more about it. It becomes a habit. It becomes the thing to do. And that eventually becomes your belief. This is my religion. But you didn't choose it in most cases, unless you're a convert to a church. So you didn't choose it. It was chosen for you. And this is a really interesting point, because I've spoken to a lot of people about their religions in the past and asked them what they believe in. And it's amazing how many don't know what they believe in. Or in a few situations, I was speaking to people about a specific religion, and I had asked them, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? And I specifically chose beliefs from a different religion, and they were like, oh yeah, because they thought they were supposed to say that. They really didn't know. It's amazing how so many people will die for their religion, but don't even know what they believe in. Or how so many people will die for their country. They're willing to die for their country, but they've never even read the Constitution to find out what they believe, what their country's about. And they couldn't even name 10 out of the 45 presidents. Think of that. If you're willing to die for something, shouldn't you even understand it, know what it's about? Again, that's programming. People on the other side of the world who have totally different beliefs and programming, do you realize that they're willing to die for their beliefs and their programming also? And it's completely different than ours. So which one is right? Which one's wrong? Who is fighting for the right cause? They both are. Or are they? So it's a matter of perception and programming. So let's continue with what happens after your parental programming. So you begin learning from your siblings, from your relatives, from company coming into the house, and even, or I should say especially, television. And today I guess you could add in video games and cell phones because people are on those all the time. Now when you moved on and went into school or wherever you're going, you desperately wanted to be accepted and you wanted to fit into, I guess you could say, others' expectations of you, and you began to copy them as results. You wanted to fit in. You followed the crowd. You didn't want to be noticed or ridiculed. We all have a desire somewhere to be popular and to have friends and to fit in. So this continues in school. And when you're in the earlier grades of school, okay, you acted like the other kids to blend in with them and to learn how to act because you don't really know. It's the first time you go to school. Then when you go into high school, okay, we all fit into different categories. Some people are jocks if they're into sports. Some people are geeks. Some people are into the goth category. Some people are nerds. So there's these different categories that you seem to fit in. You kind of settle into what you feel comfortable or what society says you should be in. Then you go off into college, so that kind of extends into college, or you go into work. Now it's interesting that when you go to work, even though you might be taught by some kind of orientation person, when you actually get on the job, you do the job like everyone else. That's interesting because when I do sales training, a lot of business owners will say, I had this spectacular super salesman. He was out there producing. He came in and within a month, he basically, I guess you could say his sales went down, so he was like the rest of the group. Why is that? Well, a lot of times if somebody comes in and they have these abilities as a super salesman, they get into the group, into the bullpen, if you would say, of other workers or other salespeople, and everyone's looking at him saying, why can't he produce? What's wrong with him? Why isn't he like us? Even though he's making more money, making a lot of sales, a lot of times they will, I guess you could say, dumb down to the rest of the group. They will let their sales ability go so they can match everyone else, and then all of a sudden, people are starting to like them. People like it when you're like them. They don't like it when you stand out, and the people that stand out don't like it either, even though it may be better. So what do you do at work? You do like other people do. Even in your non-work time, you like to join your coworkers and activities, different things that they do. You spend a lot of time with them. Then later on, you move on and you get married. Now, this is interesting. When you get married, you raise your family the same way, usually, as your parents raised you. Isn't that interesting? You may have even found yourself using the same mannerisms or slogans that your parents use. Your kids are naughty in the back seat and you find yourself saying, "Don't make me come back there." And then you go, "Oh my gosh, I'm becoming my father." How many of you have gotten to that? I want to hear in the comments later. How many of you started saying the same things as your parents to your kids and you caught yourself saying, "Oh, what happened?" Okay. And moving on, you might find that you have a similar lifestyle, a similar car, and even a similar house as those people around you. You can see that driving through a city, how all the houses are the same in certain neighborhoods, and all those people seem to have similar cars if you drive through the neighborhood, and they all seem to have similar jobs and similar kind of houses. And it's amazing. You'll find that most people will even make within 20% of the same income as their closest 5 friends. It's a lifetime of conditioning. You follow the group or you follow the followers, okay? I call it the sheep mentality. We become sheeple, okay? Being herded through daily programming, propaganda, and routine. That's the basis of living a programmed life. So in the earlier years, okay, you were programmed through your family, then through your environment. If you can control this group mentality, you can also control the group. So I'd like you to be aware of the group conditioning all around you. You see it everywhere. Think of it. You see it in political groups. You see it in religious factions. You see it in different locations and states and cities. You see it in schools, especially in colleges. You have a lot of group programming. And the list is endless. So don't be afraid to stand up on your own, even though everyone else isn't. You might be the right one. It's interesting to know that 90% of your decisions, 90% of all decisions that you make in your life comes from your conditioning and your memories. It goes like this: stimuli, pause, response. Okay, the stimuli is when you come in, confrontation with some kind of decision that has to be made. Something comes right in your face. So you pause, and that stimuli goes into your subconscious mind, and it kind of bounces off all the different memories and experiences and emotions, so you can find something to relate to, and then you respond from what you know. Think of that. You respond from what you know. That's why when 5 people are given the same stimuli, they might come up with 5 different responses, because you can only make a decision on something, or you can only figure something out with the information that you have at hand in your subconscious mind. So 90% of all decisions you make are conditioned, are automated. Keep that in mind. Only about 10% are original decisions, come from original thought, I guess you'd say, which comes from your frontal lobe. Now, your frontal lobe, yes, is where original thought comes from. And just so you know, you cannot use your frontal lobe if you're stressed. When you're in a state of stress, your frontal lobe is immediately shut off and everything goes into the rear brain, which is your reaction, your instinctive thinking, that 90%. So if you want to do more original thinking, you need to be stress-free. And the average human spends about 80% of their time in a state of stress. Can you see where this is going? So the frontal lobe original thought can only be used when you're not in stress. So this 10% original thought, original, what I call awake thinking, is the basis of what we call personal enlightenment. Rather than being a sheep in the herd, you're more like an eagle flying above the herd, observing it. Now, yes, you still have to go by the rules of the herd, but you can actually see what's going on. You're an observer in your own life. You become aware, maybe just for a moment, but you have that personal awareness. It reminds me of a story I was once told a while back about Buddha. The student asked the Buddha, "Are you a teacher?" And he said, "No." He said, "Are you a prophet?" He said, "No." The student says, "Are you a god?" And he said, "No." So the student said, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm awake in a sleeping world." So I hope I woke you up enough to help you to open your eyes and see the conditioning going on around you, so you can be your own person and not allow this conditioning to control you, to be able to use your own mind, that frontal lobe, that 10% original thinking, a little more. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your opinion. And please share this video with your friends so we can help as many people as possible. Have a great day.